Thank you for taking the time to tune in to another episode of Develop, Integrate, and Sustain TV, keeping it simple. Well, let's go ahead and get started this morning and talk a little bit about site-to-site replication of data. How do we protect our data in a primary site here, represented as Site B in Texas, to a secondary site here in California? How do we actually protect this data and get it in a geographically dispersed environment? So let's talk a little bit about this concept of deduplication. In this drawing here, we're going to deduplicate our data. Deduplication means exactly what it's doing. It's removing all duplicated copies of the data. So they call it redundant file elimination, or redundant block elimination. In either case, we're removing redundant blocks of data and files here, so that when we transfer our backup data from Texas here, from our servers, when we transfer that data, it is considerably smaller than the original payload. And it's all about the payload. When I talk about payload, I'm talking about the backup set. So when you operate for a day here in Texas and you have, 4 terabytes worth of data that has changed over the course of the day, we want to make sure that we replicate that data to California. So in the event something happens in Texas and everything is destroyed in Texas, we have a second set of data there in California. So let's go ahead and take a look, see how that's done. See here, we're transporting over the wide area network. We come back into the California site here, and we see that there is another deduplication target. So we took from the deduplication from the site, from their servers. If you remember right here, we have the servers writing to the deduplication device. Does this eliminate tape? Yes, it does. It can eliminate tape. You're writing to hard drives, so the servers themselves and the backup software that resides on those servers is simply seeing this device as a backup target for them. So they're writing, and then dependent upon the type of deduplication technology you have, it's performing tasks on that data, so that when we send it, that data or payload is considerably less as it transfers up the network here and back onto our target device. Now this California site is used somewhat as a generic site. Notice there's no servers illustrated. That's not just because I was lazy to draw them in there. It's because it potentially could be a target backup site for multiple sites. You could have sites in Texas, Oregon, in Salt Lake City, or wherever you want to have these sites. You could have these sites and they could all replicate their data to a centralized site. You might want to split it up by region. Whatever it is that you do to become successful, it's very, very flexible, this technology. Now, one thing before we conclude here is I want to re-emphasize that this data that is being backed up is backup data. It is not production data. Well, it's a backup of the production data. It is not data. I can't go to this device here in California, hook a server up to it, and see the data. I have to rehydrate. They call it rehydrating in most circles. I have to rehydrate this deduplicated data. I got to put it all back together in a usable format so that if I hook a server up here, it can see that data. It is no different than what a standard backup does. You can't really read backup tapes either without the right technology in order to interpret what the backup has done. And they do that so that the payload is less, right? They're always trying to squeeze as much of the excess out of those payloads so that it becomes more efficient to do backup. So before we conclude here, here's what we're doing. We're taking backup here. We're shipping it over to a deduplication device. The deduplication device is then shooting it over the wide area network to a secondary site that has a deduplication target. That target there at the target site can hold as much data as it has capacity to and can support multiple deduplication sources. Well, that's 4-hour site-to-site data replication, data protection. Remember, this is not replication of data, but replication of backup sets. My name is Jeff Lush. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me, and have a great day.